Dagda, I'm going to make a bold prediction here. We could see a Sett from Ming. It's something he's played this split already. It's something he's played a ton historically. We could have another Sett support angle because they likely want that hard engaged support once more.
We saw it in the early stages of today, maybe we do, but that big mid lane pick in the Ryze is left up and available. This is a terrifying pick to give to Xiaohu, and especially when EDG have been struggling in their mid game fights. If you don't have something to control this Ryze in the early stages, you're not even going to get to the mid game before you can really get a grip on what RNG are doing. So I think for EDG, looking at this Orianna pick could be something big on this next rotation, but it does mean you get the ban away from RNG on more of those AD carries, and suddenly Viper is left out in the cold. So again, RNG doing a wonderful job in draft of kind of pushing EDG into really difficult decisions.
No support and no jungle in that first half of the draft, and the Galio comes in to answer this Ryze out from EDG. This is such a strange draft series. Like, the priorities seem totally different for RNG G2. Most teams leaving jungle to the second rotation both times and blind picking both of your solo lanes. It's such a different take.
So I'm just going to point this out as EDG ban junglers, RNG are going to ban away top laners. That the big reason why we're seeing this kind of shift in meta in the draft priority for junglers is because of Hecarim. Like, so many of these picks, actually, sorry, banned away for AD carries and RNG. The big difference here for is Hecarim doesn't have that pressure in the early game. So when you see that Hecarim locked in, it actually opens up a huge amount of jungle mixtures that you can go for, because you don't have to worry about being invaded early. You know, Hecarim just doesn't have that skirmish or dueling damage in the early stages of like a Xin Zhao or a Lee Sin. And also, teams are perfectly happy to kind of go, okay, cool, well, Hecarim's there. We can still go towards things like the Jarvan, the Lee Sin, there are plenty of picks available that you can still work with on RNG side. Hell, even something like a Rek'Sai, honestly, for RNG wouldn't be the worst thing if you want to go doubling down on this early game potential here.
Yeah, I want to talk about AD carries really quick, though, because we have 4 AD carry bans coming out from RNG. The thing is, though, Viper is one of the most flexible AD carry players in our entire league. He hasn't played Tristana so far this split, but he has the Jhin, he has the Ezreal that he could go towards as well. Like, he's still got plenty of picks up his sleeve that he can go with. This Tristana, though, we have seen a few times, not from Viper specifically, but alongside this Nautilus, it's a killer 2v2.
And I think it's something that has great presence in lane, but also works really well with dive. Like, one of the things with Tristana is she gets an exceptional range, so it's very difficult for dive compositions like RNG are setting up for to really get on top of the Tristana, especially when she has her jump. But also, if you end up winning the dive, she's very good at being able to chase down the low health members and continue forward in that pressure in the team fight. So, I mean, we're looking at dive versus dive, same as we saw in the last game. Munch, you're a prophet with this Sett pick. I bow down to your analysis. But realistically, I think this game is very much going to be on this early game. Whoever gets the lead will follow it through more than likely into the rest of the game.
I'm just in Ming's head. I just know that this guy wants to go in. And when you take his Nautilus, you ban the 2 other big engaged supports. So that's the answer. Viego going to be locked in here for Wei. It's a matchup we see very regularly against the Hecarim, and instantly we get the Camille out from Xiaohu. This is a very, very good matchup for the Camille. It's something that you can really take over the game if you find those key moments to get in onto.
And that's the big one, is trying to find those key engagements, and especially for the opportunity for Jiejie to start playing up towards this top side alongside Scout on this Galio. So I certainly think Ming putting a bit of a target on his back here, especially with the way EDG want to play, because honestly, Viper, Meiko, happy to just farm it out, scale into the later portion of the game. Huge amount of roam potential here in the mid lane. And I personally think that, like, with the early pressure Xiaohu has in the mid lane, you'd be crazy for Wei to not go for these. Sorry, laugh at the little backslap there. Good banter between the coaches, but you'd be insane as Wei to not go for these invades into the enemy jungle. Like, this is such a simple way for you to get control. Like, you push early mid and top, push early mid in the push early in the top lane, push early in the mid. Just go for these invades and really get Jiejie behind.
Could certainly be a way to go for it. That said, it didn't work in game number 1. If we think back to how game number 1 started, it was all about Jiejie. Even though EDG lost the game, that level 1 play from Wei and Bin to try and invade, it was denied by Jiejie and the gang. And it's set up Jiejie for a really nice start on this Hecarim. We'll see if RNG can change things up at level 1 this time around. They've got a different jungler to work with, got different lanes to work with, so maybe things can be a little more positive. But ultimately, it didn't matter in the grand scheme of the game. RNG pretty much just rinsed EDG beyond that level 1 play. So whether or not the level 1 works, we'll have to wait and see. But RNG certainly a favorite coming into game number 2 in EDG. They've been struggling towards the latter half of this split. They've been struggling against the other top teams in the LPL. And now they are struggling against their rivals in RNG, who are looking to continue their climb up the standings.
And it feels like for EDG, the world champions, this summer split winners, not finding that success is really strange. The team fights were the strength. RNG, though, already in river here. Seen it for MSI.
Oh, Xiaohu's going to have to flash here, but Meiko hasn't used his hook yet, and instead goes on to Ming. Jump forwards from Viper. It's just going to be damage onto Ming, but a flash forced out from Xiaohu. That's a very vulnerable mid laner all of a sudden.
Especially if Jiejie can get into that lane. It's going to be a little bit difficult because it feels like, as we said, Wei has options to try and play off of the wave state that is in that mid lane, but we'll have to see if RNG can get control early and wrestle that back, but certainly Xiaohu going to need to play in the back foot a little bit with that summoner spell burn.
Well, Jiejie gets to start on his chickens, and we'll see if Wei does get aggressive and try and get some invades off, but with his mid laner having no flash, maybe RNG have to be a little more cautious on the way they start things off. And I love this from EDG, kind of answering what happened in game number 1, right? Game number 1, it was RNG trying to be cheeky, trying to make things happen at level 1. This time, it's EDG saying, look, we're going to be proactive. We're not going to let you have your run-of-the-mill like we did in the first game of the series. Good little trades here from Xiaohu up at the top side, managing to control the brushes. Xiaohu gets level 2, and Scout knows all about that.
Scout taking a massive chunk of damage there, and this is what we're talking about, at least in the mid lane, with Xiaohu having control, potentially setting up Wei to go for some of these early invades. Bin, though, as you say, taking a lot of damage early. Xiaohu playing really well, both in how he traded, but also using the bushes on the side lane to make sure Bin wasn't able to trade back effectively. So now, Jiejie at least getting a little bit of control on that top side, which makes things a lot easier and gives him a breath of fresh air when it comes towards potential pressure from the enemy jungle.
Xiaohu has no flash, remember. Jiejie gonna use the ghost, but a rune prism is so nice. Knocked towards the tower. Xiaohu will survive, and that was clutch from the RNG mid laner.
Clutch from Xiaohu, mistake from Jiejie. You had the ghost still pop there. Jiejie, despite the rune prism, could have moved in behind Xiaohu and knocked him away from the turret, but automatically attacking Xiaohu just pushes him towards the safety of his turret, and Xiaohu can get out. Now, it's not going to set Jiejie massively far behind, like more of a kind of transitional gank, but not having the ghost now available is going to make those mid lane ganks that little bit tougher.
And that's halfway on the time of the flash, right? We've talked about the window that EDG could possibly have to abuse that flashless Ryze in the mid lane. Well, it's 2.5 minutes remaining. Jiejie to be able to make that happen. Way up on this top side. We'll get the Scuttle Crab for himself. Looks like he might drop a ward before going for a reset for himself. He will not find any camps up there. A play towards Xiaohu could be available. But I kind of want to revisit this bottom lane that we were talking about so much early on, because there were 4 AD carry bans towards Viper. He ended up going for this Tristana, and he's up against this Sett. Like, this is a weird 2v2. This is not a standard 2v2 in the current meta.
Definitely. Ming is certainly looking to go for the counter pick on the support. One of the big things about Nautilus is that while he's great at setting up engages and being that mainstay engage tool in team fights, laning phase definitely not as strong against these super tanks in the bot lane, the likes of Leona's, Sett, who can take a whole lot of damage and kind of set up their AD carry for success. So Meiko definitely going to be on the back end of things if RNG can find that engage, but with Viper and the Tristana, she's insanely good at having consistent push in this bot lane, and you can already see it, Gala not really being able to get that control over the wave, which would allow Ming to play aggressive in this lane. So it's actually the AD carries that are making the big difference in the support matchup on the bottom half of the map.
And ordinarily, I'd be leaning towards Viper in that conversation. Certainly an incredibly talented AD carry, and as we said before, he's one of those players that it feels like no matter the situation, he's on top. Like last game, the fact that EDG got bodied basically every fight, and Viper's still somehow on Kai'Sa, on a full AD Kai'Sa. Tops the damage table. kind of boggles my mind. But even still, it's down to whether or not Gala can step up, because Gala has been an exceptional AD carry over the course of the last year. It feels like last year was his year to prove himself, and he really did, especially in the spring when it came to coming to MSI. Bottom side, though, we'll just be clearing some.
I'm a little bit worried now for Wei. So, Jiejie's pathing, he actually stayed out on the map extremely long, so then he could get the second reset of his camps on top side. Means he's got that full Bammy Cinder on reset. His jungler's uneven match, but being in trouble.
Forget junglers, though. Scout is like, you know what? It's my turn to make a gank happen. Xiaohu is here. There's a knockup. There's a flash from Xiaohu. And a very quick kill for EDG. First blood for Scout on the Galio.
And this is what I want to see from EDG. The fact that they're able to play up towards Xiaohu and get him resources, because one of the things that we have on both sides is like great side lane pressure, great team fighting, but definitely Xiaohu can get the lead in the long run against Bin. So having that pressure in side lane, especially when you get towards the later portion of the game, will give you first move towards those objectives, first move towards these team fights. And when we said in the early game, a lot of this game is going to be dictated by who gets these early leads. EDG strike first.
Happen. I mean, it's not going to be a huge gold lead for them to start off, right? We're still basically even in gold, and it's traded for a dragon on the bottom side for RNG, so certainly not a massive lead on the side of EDG, but it's a nice start for Scout to get that first blood. It does mean he's now going to Dock Seal in his pocket if the next few fights do kick off. And crucially, I want to talk on the conversation of early presence, right? Because we've seen Scout already making a play. Now level 6, so he can make another play towards Bin if he finds the opportunity to. Xiaohu with this Galio Camille combo, we've all seen it before, right? It's notorious. There is a lot of playmaking ability for EDG in this early game.
And especially with the flash burned on Bin, there's just no real wiggle room for him in that engagement. Meiko moving up here to make sure that Scout can get control of the mid lane as well. And now Scout can just dip into Fog of War. Bin overextending the top lane. He may not be able to get this wave crash, which again, either he respects the potential play on top side and backs away as you can see, or Xiaohu just gets to freeze the wave. So again, it's a win-win for EDG. And a lot of this has come back towards, Xiaohu burning that flash in the early stage. Not able to get control in the mid wave, not being able to play as aggressive as he should be able to Ryze, and not allowing Wade to go for these invades that we talked about in the enemy side. Bin not having control of that top wave as well because those good trades from Xiaohu. Like this early game from EDG, again, very well orchestrated. It's a case of can they now carry this into the mid-game fight? That was what made them lack in game number 1.
Did EDG, while we're talking about potential advantages in the fight itself, so far in laning, not doing so hot, behind in all 3 lanes right now when it comes to CS numbers, but instead they're just going to group up and go for a Herald, because like you said, they've got a potential advantage in these fights. Herald's eye popped 4,000 on that as RNG immediately engaged upon a Jiejie straight over the wall, followed up by Scout. Knockups galore. Xiaohu stuck in a corner right here. Health bar still going for EDG, but now Gala's arriving, and he's going to try and clean things up. It's 1 for 0 so far, but a stun onto Meiko, and it feels like RNG are on the chase. Realm Warp coming on through. I've no idea where that was meant to go, but it's going to be a kill for RNG. Wave flashes forward. Scout back into the fray, but he goes down. Jiejie behind enemy lines, but he just can't go in at this point. And RNG, the longer the fight went, the more it felt in their favor.
And a lot of that came down to Bin at the start of that huge Gnar ult to soften up EDG. And it meant that when RNG were able to get themselves into position, get this front to back, they could push forward. Look at the top of this fight. Bin incredibly close to Gnar, or Mega Gnar. The engage is great from Jiejie here, but watch Bin. Shuts down every bit of engagement he wants to do. Xiaohu can't follow up. Viego zoned out of the equation. RNG deal with Jiejie, who has been separated on the back line, and with those squishy health bars already there, RNG are able to follow up and find some of these kills for themselves.
So good to be an RNG fan right now, because the team fighting is looking magnificent. And once again, Dagda, we have to go back to what we said at the start of the day. EDG, when it comes to the 5v5s, have been lacking. It doesn't feel like this is the same team fighting team that we saw back at the World Championship. It feels like it's been somehow getting worse over the course of the split, because at the start of the split, it didn't feel like EDG had taken a break at all, as Jiejie just decides to try and 2v1 for the chicken. We'll walk away in the end. But when it comes to these 5v5s, This is a seriously disappointing version of the EDG roster.
And I think a huge amount of this is kind of coming down to who is doing the engagement. In EDG for Season 11, it was all about Meiko. It was all about these engaged supports. He's most played was Alistar over the course of the game, followed by Rel. Like, these are big picks that you can go for engages on. Even though you have the Nautilus here, Nautilus is kind of settled into this kind of follow-up engagement. A lot of the engages we're seeing are coming from junglers, like the Hecarim, and Jiejie just hasn't really slotted into that big engage style. EDG, though, doing good jobs on the map here. Viper going to be very quickly accelerated, getting this nice bit of turret damage on the bot side, and will answer for this eventual Rift Herald play that we see, but actually not going to use it on the top side like I thought they would there for our way moving down towards the bot lane.
Deciding not to commit to that one. I think Gala is moving to the bot lane as well. He was like kind of hidden behind Ming on the minimap, so it was hard to stay exactly, but looks like deciding not to go for that one, so it will be just a bunch of gold given over to Viper for not much of a trade from the side of RNG. It does mean EDG are currently ahead in gold by about 500, but way here in the bottom side as well could spell that this Herald play does end up down here instead. Currently, though, still 11.5 minutes on the clock, so a little while to work on these plays to try and figure out a way to make this Herald play work, but RNG will find that window. It's a different question because Break is up onto the map, and EDG are the ones on the scene to start this one off.
I think RNG are just going to give this. They're like, hey, look, Cloud Dragon, who really cares? We've got full push on top side. There's 4 plates sitting there and waiting for us. Let's just try and make a play up towards that side. Xiaohu, though, is sitting in the mid lane, so just kind of going, hey, look, I can't really defend this top lane turret, especially as they see Xiaohu and Wei moving up. So EDG will see top lane turret for the Dragon, while Viper answers on this bot side with a tower of their own. Rift Herald's still there, though, so RNG will eventually match up in pace, but that gold going to Bin instead of Gala is a bit of a question mark.
I don't like this at all from RNG. They're not even going to get the first tower on the plate, and now engaged upon by EDG. It's a full-on 3v3 scrap here. Jiejie smites to keep himself alive, and now Hex Smash over the wall as Ming is desperate to join his buddies in the top lane. Xiaohu trying to get away under the tower. But guess what? The health loss is so low from EDG that RNG could just keep this going. So yes, Viper got the first tower of the game, but RNG get 2 towers, and now I have no idea who won the trade.
I don't understand why EDG fought, though. You don't need to. You're already trading. Like, defend your tier 2.
It was for the banter, Dagda. Think about the banter, man.
Look, you know, I have to call up the Archbishop of Banterbury right now because I can't really deal with this. Like, EDG, it's all fun and games until you get smacked down again by RNG. Like, this was not an engage that you wanted to take. RNG had full push, had control of top side, and yeah, Viper would get half turret damage on that tier 2 bot, but you burnt a lot on EDG to try and keep that play in check. And, I mean, RNG's strong side right now is that top. Like, why are you fighting towards RNG's strength? Play towards yours.
Yeah, it feels like a bit of a weird one from the side of EDG, and losing out massively in that top side because of that Herald play, and now 1,000 gold lead in favor of RNG, but once again, we have to return to the conversation. Viper is getting real big. Viper is the kind of player that can win a game by himself. 1.5 items on the Tristana and 1,500 gold ahead individually. But a great little pullback from Ming to start things off here. Meiko in all kinds of trouble. Forced to flash stretch line away to the wall. Riptide to slow the enemy down. He will walk away with his life. But a Drake apiece to start this one off, Dagda. 3 minutes until a Hextech Soul will come onto the map. So it's worth mentioning some of the potential flank opportunities that things like this Gnar from Bin, things like this Camille from Xiaohu might be able to get later on in the game.
There are 2 things that this game is now going to live and die by, the position that we're in. 1 is engages from Jiejie. 2 is Viper being able to get damage off. He is not only 1,500 gold ahead of his counterpart, he's almost 1,500 ahead of like everyone else in the game. Like, it is absolutely insane how much gold Viper has. And as long as he's able to free hit, he's going to win out on the fights. Just because Gala, you know, a half item behind, you don't really have any big damage dealers across the board, and the safety that this Tristana offers. So for RNG, they need to start trying to find some advantages by using Xiaohu to try and get picks, get some gold back in their favor, because Viper is terrifying despite the fact that RNG are sitting about 1,000 gold lead across the board.
And crucially, it's a gold lead that EDG could currently use if they want to try and force the Herald that's coming up in 30 seconds time. But it looks like RNG are going to be on hand to try and contest. Bin on the bottom side of the map, but he has TP available. He individually is about 1,000 gold up as well in that sideline. So Xiaohu having a bit of a hard time to be able to match that Gnar for the time being. EDG with vision control of the area so far. It looks like Bin is going to try and just walk up if he can.
He's just going to wander his way up. Will be spotted by a ward. Pink in the pixel brush will spot him out. So EDG back away as soon as the Gnar does show. Very aware that he's close to that Mega Gnar form, so going to respect Bin at the moment. And this may give Xiaohu the opportunity to just push in on this bottom lane. Trade the Rift Herald here for that tier 2 on the side. And honestly, I wouldn't be against EDG trying to make that. I think in a lot of situations, trying to answer for these side lanes where Xiaohu can put more pressure on this bottom lane is going to be a late game win condition that they can actually play towards. Whereas if the mid lane goes down, I think you still have relative ease here for EDG to try and control that mid wave with how big Viper is.
Might get aggressed upon here by Bin as the slow comes on through, but shot wall dive will pull him out to safety. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is Narvis Camille. Chuck a couple of boomerangs, the grappling hooks come out, and nothing ever happens. Now Herald kicked off here, 8,500 on the health bar as EDG try and start things. But it's going to be RNG to commit a TP from Bin immediately as he turns mini Gnar. Not the best timing I've ever seen on a Gnar TP, as he has to just try and escape Xiaohu, threatening the engage, and EDG will be the team to just take the Herald here. Very nicely done, and honestly, a little bit of a whip on the timing here from RNG.
Yeah, beware of dog sign, and it's a chihuahua that comes barking up from Bin.
Hey, they got a vicious fight, I will say.
I will say, true, but not the most terrified, as EDG kind of call the bluff and say, right, you guys don't have this, we're going to be able to get it. And again, nice kind of play here from EDG, as long as they're able to find this win at the Dragon fight. Set up for Viper. This engagement needs to be so crucial for EDG.
Yeah, RNG just coming yapping up the drive, and EDG just with a strong thigh boot the guy into the distance. It's going to be Drake taking here. 2,500 HP, but it's going to be a fight actually as Viper still sitting pretty on the back line. That's one kill for him. Resets coming on through as Ming trying to tank on up. Nobody onto Viper just yet for the rest of his team. Starting to get low on the health bars. Viper hammering away onto this front line. The Crack Slade doing work. Wei trying to get the resets, trying to finish these health bars up. Xiaohu flashes but can't finish the kills. And Viper's in the back of the pit. But a stopwatch ruins everything. Wei getting that one, but the resets are here. And Viper cleanses, charges forward, trying to chase down Bin, trying to finish off the fight. But he can't quite find that last kill. Into the mid lane he'll go as the Herald is dropped by Jiejie.
And that was exactly the engage that EDG needed. It didn't look like they might have been able to bring it across the finish line, but Viper free-hitting this whole time. Now sitting at 4-0. Viper is taking over the game, Munch.
This is beautiful from Viper, and the way that the rest of the team is just they're just such big beefy boys. They're just there to try and tank as long as they can.
And phenomenal engage coming through from Jiejie. Sets up perfectly for Xiaohu to lock up Gala, the AD carry taken out of the equation. And the damage is definitely there for Xiaohu. Like, Xiaohu is doing a ton of work for RNG here, but Viper, full health, man on a mission. That is what you want to see from an AD carry. That is what you want to see from an MVP performer.
I absolutely love it. I think, honestly, if Viper commits to killing Xiaohu instead of waiting for Wei to come out and stop punch, I think he maybe just triple kills them there and finishes the fight off. But either way, beautiful stuff. I love that he sees them as a 3. His team is all backing off. He's like, nah, that's a 1v3 that I'm willing to take. That is the cojones that I love out of my AD carries. But Xiaohu as well, having a pretty good game for himself. 3, 1, and 2. He's got to be the carry for the side of RNG. And that's a sentence we've said plenty of times before. We talked about the mid lane matchup. And I feel like this Galio has been the crux of it so far. Game number 1, the Galio working out beautifully for Xiaohu. Now game number 2, so far, Scout essentially opting out of this matchup and saying, look, I'm allowing Viper to be the main character.
I think that's the thing, is that Galio does really well when we see these super heavy dive combos. And just gives you so much zone control, especially with like a short range AD carry and a short range mid laner like Xiaohu has. it just becomes so difficult for you to operate. You don't really want to step into the zone of control that Scout offers with an ultimate. And even when Scout lands, you still have to be so careful with things like the Everfrost, a Predator as he runs you down with the taunt. Like, trying to position becomes a nightmare for RNG. And with Xiaohu and Scout kind of having that definitive go button, with Jiejie looking much better in that last fight with his engagement, it's becoming easier and easier for EDG to set up Viper to be that main character.
Is 2 items now, and again, the Kraken Slayer Phantom Dancer that we talked about in game number 1, it's a big power spike in of itself, and Tristana is one of these crit AD carries that doesn't necessarily need to have those 3 items to have the big spike like a lot of the AD carries, because the way her kit works, you have so much burst damage that realistically, if the fight starts well, you're still going to be hammering real hard without finishing that Infinity Edge. So the 2 item mark is still very prominent for Viper on this Tristana. And the fact that he still has, you know, 10 CS per minute across the course of this game, despite how many scraps he's had to be a part of here, certainly helping accelerate him into the mid game. But EDG trying to make a play towards his bottom side. RNG with a lot of players here as well. Feels like both teams know what's going off here.
EDG just fishing for the vision at the moment. Want to try and go for this tier 2. Xiaohu calling the bluff there. Kind of going, hey, how many people are here? And really nice play from Xiaohu there. Now RNG all exposed, standing underneath this turret.
Yeah, and the bomb ticking away. That's going to be big damage, and a tower taken down by Viper once more. And EDG basically saying, look, we're coming to the bottom lane, and we want a tier 2. And RNG go, well, we'll send 4 people to watch you take that tier 2.
Nice job. Go
There's no way that we can actually fight you right now. Hang on, though. 30 seconds until the straight comes up, Dagda. This would be sole point for RNG, but can they actually fight it?
That's the problem that I have. Look at the vision control that EDG had established in that jungle. You're now clearing that out for RNG, but it means you don't have a huge amount of control of the mid lane. They're trying to TP in with Bin to guarantee control. Bit of a late reset for EDG, actually. Might give RNG access to this river. So EDG, you know, staying a little bit too long on the map for this dragon, and now RNG in a phenomenal spot. Viper is going to struggle a little bit to get access to this fight, but with the Lord Dominic's Regard now completed as well, if he can fire on RNG, he's going to deal so much damage.
Oh, Drake just being burnt, and then the Robo about to save the RNG, making it look good as they get themselves a 3rd Drake.
And because EDG have positioned themselves in river, they actually aren't in a position to go towards a rush in mid lane. Should get the tier 2 just off of this wave here, and with Viper doing Viper things, but maybe not actually.
Not as Bin about to turn Mega will be denied by Scout. Good little Everfrost there to disengage the play, but Xiaohu looking for a flank. The tower on about 1 HP. EDG wants to just go for the fight here. Wait, moves in. We'll just find a Camille though. That's not a 1v1 that the Rune King wins, but he's not in a 1v1. Bin is here, but whiffs the ulti. A flash coming out from Xiaohu, pulled in by Ming. Now the Galio to fly on over. Xiaohu bought time. Is it enough is the question. Viper now starting to get resets in the fight. He's just churning through these health bars. One by one, the members of RNG are cut down before our very eyes. EDG just dominate yet another fight.
You've activated EDG's trap card. You jump onto Xiaohu, and he just sets up the engage for Scout. It is perfect, and Viper leaping over the wall, picks up the fight. They pick up the Baron. RNG, though, they're looking to contest. I don't know if they have the numbers for this. It's a 2-man contest.
And it's a mini Gnar as well. Xiaohu and Bin, can they make the magic happen? Xiaohu and the replacement top laner trying to go for a 2v4. Big damage into the bit. Scout trying to get torn onto the 2 of them. Viper here with the damage, knocks Bin away, who's about to turn Mega here. And it's a valiant effort from RNG as the Mega Gnar comes on through, the ult comes on through, but the damage just isn't there. 2 more kills for EDG. The Baron does reset though. Perhaps they've delayed enough. Wei trying to make his way over as well as the Baron started once more. Round number 2. Ding, 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 ding.
Deja
RNG going for another fight with a numbers disadvantage, but Scout is behind the play, way over the wall. He wants to try and make the Miracle Steal happen. Doesn't have vision right now. Has a blast cone to try and get into the pin, and he's done it. Wei makes the steal happen, and now Gala locked in a Hextech ultimatum, but he takes down 1 for his trouble.
I mean, the burger flip from EDG was not the call. They just take the fight. Sett was in a perfect position to set them up for success, but somehow Wei gets into the play. We're going to come back to this earlier fight, though. This is what we're talking about. You chase the Xiaohu, but I mean, it's the trap card for EDG. They turn around with the Hextech ultimatum. It pushes back EDG. Scout comes in beautifully with the ultimate, and look at Viper once more setting up for this run-to-back fight. He gets so much damage off, but here, Wei, this steal, so crucial. Still, EDG get a huge amount of gold. They will get a ton of presence on the map, but just missing out on Dragon, just missing out on Baron. These are the things that could have crossed EDG over the finish line.
And the thing is, this is the panic that we've been talking about. This is the late game issues we've been talking about with EDG, right? It comes down to the shot calling. We've seen dodgy team fights that not necessarily are an issue of mechanics, it's an issue of the coordination of the team. And now we're seeing these calls, these plays that, like, trying to 50-50 to Baron. Like, if it works, fantastic, but, you know, it's a 50% chance of working, so not exactly ideal. And, like, losing the Drake on the back of the map plays, it does feel like, even though RNG have been behind the vast majority of this game, on sole point with the next Drake up in a minute, maybe a chance here, though, as Gala is caught. There's a knock-up, there's a fear. Gala just locked up forever, and Ming already fell in the fight as well. Okay, I was laying it on thick about EDG, but it turns out they're still in control.
Xiaohu was trying to see if he could get top wave push, so he wasn't in that fight, and RNG trying to see if they could get control of River to enable Xiaohu to go for the side lane play, but Gala gets caught. That's the power of this Galio Camille in these later portions of the game, and just with that pick, EDG get full control for the next Dragon. They're going to look for the resets now. Maybe Wei can look for the Miracle Steal, get that sole point for them, but with EDG's team fight, it's going to be tough to try and answer.
Is RNG trying to get some vision control. 30 seconds on the Drake, and the resets have come on through for EDG, but you can reset a little bit later on this map thanks to the portals. You can rejoin the fray. So EDG will be grouped, but look at the ultimates right now. Scout doesn't have his. Jiejie doesn't have his. Xiaoshang doesn't have his. This could be an opportunity for RNG to make a crucial fight happen and take over the game. If they get this Drake, I would consider them favorites in the upcoming team fights beyond that point. We do have a Zeri that's starting to feel pretty strong. He trying to group up in front of it. Xiaoshang trying to find a flank for Bin. Very close to Gnar. Pulled on in. Oh, he just gets burst down. Never mind. Forget Gnar. He's mega gone in this one as the resets come through for Viper once more. The re-engage from RNG, but they just don't have the health bars. They just don't have the damage, and they just don't have anything left in the tank as Viper flashes for the triple kill, and EDG will waltz into the base.
Bin is a Chihuahua. Viper is a boa constrictor. He has absolutely decimated the front line of RNG. There is no even fight. It doesn't matter about the ultimates. Viper will win the game for EDG.
Anaconda don't want none. As I can't remember the rest of that song, but it's 20-7 here, and EDG come back in the series and give hope to a fan base that was starting to wane a little, I fear.
And again, EDG, good early game decisions. Great opportunities by burning the flash and shout.